Throughout the next number of years, one of the most talked about franchises will be The Witcher and the question of when CD Projekt Red will bring us back into that world. But what we do know, and what CD Projekt Red keeps saying, is that we will eventually get a new Witcher game. Now, what we do know is that CD Projekt Red's next game, that's been in production since 2012, will take them into the world of Cyberpunk. This upcoming game, Cyberpunk 2077, that's probably still not exactly close to being released, is what they are focused on. But the good news is that everything is pointing to marketing for that game beginning very soon, and a release date sometime in 2019. After Cyberpunk 2077 though, there's a lot of question marks about what CD Projekt Red could have in store. Back in March of 2016, it was revealed during CD Projekt's 2015 financial results conference by President Adam Kaczynski that they had two planned AAA RPGs due for release before 2021, one of which is obviously Cyberpunk 2077, and the other is still a mystery. At the time, Kaczynski refused to entertain any questions about the AAA RPGs, but he did kind of answer one question on whether the release of the second AAA RPG could be dependent on the coming of new consoles to the market, and he answered that even if he knew, he would not be able to say anything about that, since that kind of information is a closely guarded secret. Now, getting a little more specific on the subject of the next Witcher game, let's go through everything CD Projekt Red has said, which begins with Adam Kaczynski, back in late 2015 speaking to a Polish TV station, in which he said it's too early to talk about it, but it's not like we're forgetting about this brand. It would not be fair towards the fans. We're working within this universe for over a dozen years now, and I don't think it's going to be the end of it. Furthermore, in March of 2017, Marcin Nowinski, co-CEO of CD Projekt Red, was a little more upfront about the future of the Witcher game, saying, quote-unquote, "The Witcher was designed as a trilogy, and a trilogy cannot have a fourth part, can it? We like this world a lot. We've invested 15 years of our lives in it and a lot of money, so we'll think about making a new Witcher game at some point. But please consider us as rational people. We sometimes have weird ideas, but overall our thinking is very rational. We have full rights to the Witcher games, they are ours. We've invested enormous funds into promoting it, and it's a very strong brand." Nowinski would also add that the Witcher series deserves some rest and that the team needs a change, specifically saying, quote-unquote, "For the past 10 years the team has been working on swords and castles and medieval Slavic monsters, so I think it's time for some guns, androids, and some ammo." Continuing on, in November of 2017, Adam Kaczynski once again spoke on The Witcher 4, saying that in time they will return to the world as long as they can come up with something cool. But he continues saying that they have spent years working and promoting this franchise, and fans and investors would not forgive them if they were to forever abandon this project. Now, to just days ago, Marcin Nowinski spoke with PC Gamer, in which that subject once again came up, and Nowinski responded with, "We've devoted a big part of our lives to The Witcher, and it means a lot to us, so we're definitely not abandoning this universe. If you miss your favorite characters, give Gwent a go. If you're a fan of storytelling, there's Thronebreaker coming out in the near future. However, in terms of big RPGs, it's time for Cyberpunk 2077. But moving on to the subject of what will The Witcher 4 maybe be about, well, it's important to understand Geralt of Rivia's story is over. Maybe. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt may have been the finale of Geralt of Rivia's story, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's fully over, although the voice actor of Geralt did confirm that he would not be returning anytime soon. But in 2013, Marcin Nowinski, showcasing a tech demo of The Witcher 3, had this to say: "We are not killing this world and walking away from it, but we will definitely want to make this game the finale in a big way. We might even include Geralt in later games, potentially." Pretty much the main series is over, but the franchise will continue on, and there are a ton of possibilities CD Projekt Red can think about, like a sequel maybe a number of years later with a fully customizable Witcher, or maybe even a prequel a number of years before the events of The Witcher 1. We could also see games centered on some of our favorite characters like Uncle Vesemir, or maybe even Ciri, although that's a little bit more tricky considering the events that occur in The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Either way, there's a lot of unexplored locations and possibilities for CD Projekt Red to work with. For those curious if The Witcher 4 is in any sort of development, well, right before The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt's last DLC released, Marcin Nowinski stated that Blood and Wine would be the last from the franchise for a while, confirming this game is not in development and won't be anytime soon. So essentially, prepare yourself for the next Half-Life 3 situation. No, but seriously, I think this is much more comparable to Fallout 3 and 4. Fallout 3 was an extremely beloved game developed by Bethesda Game Studios, and fans were eager to get back into that world. Fortunately, there was an Obsidian Entertainment in that case, which created Fallout New Vegas only 2 years later. But for the main developers of the main games in the franchise, Bethesda Game Studios went on to release The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim after Fallout 3 a couple years later, and then they began work on Fallout 4, which would release about 7 years after Fallout 3. Ignoring reception and overall quality, Fallout 4's anticipation was absolutely insane before release, and I honestly believe CD Projekt Red is going to be back in this world sometime in the next 5 to 10 years. But it should be noted that the Witcher franchise is very much still alive, as it currently lives on in Gwent, the Witcher card game. We all know there has to be a Ciri cameo coming in Cyberpunk 2077 because of this scene in The Witcher 3.
Found a portal and took us to a world where Eridan couldn't find us for, perhaps half a year.
The world where Eridan couldn't find you. What was it like?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
Try me.
People there had metal in their heads, waged war from a distance, using things similar to megascopes. And there were no horses. Everyone had their own flying ship instead.
Ciri, stop fooling around.
Told you wouldn't believe me.
Besides just gaming, if you are not aware, right now Netflix is producing their own TV series of The Witcher, although it will be based on the books instead of the games. But thus far, some of the creative minds assisting on the project were involved in the games, and have stated that they certainly will influence the series. The showrunner of the series even acknowledging that the games are not going to be ignored, so while CD Projekt Red is not involved, this is something to look forward to, as it should be coming sometime in the near future. For now, it's going to be a waiting game, but what we do know for sure is eventually we will get a new CD Projekt Red developed Witcher game. For those wondering if there could be an outside studio that develops a Witcher game, CD Projekt Red has already confirmed that the IP is theirs, and it doesn't seem they'll be letting anyone but themselves make future games. Essentially, years ago, Andrzej Sapkowski, the man behind the book, signed over the gaming license of The Witcher to CD Projekt Red for what many consider a steal, as he did not request royalties, being that he never expected the games to amount to much. Furthermore, the games have long been considered to be at least what Sapkowski claims a non-canon adaptation. So while the games were influenced and used material from the books, what comes next really is a mystery. CD Projekt Red creatively can do whatever they want, as the games are pretty much in their own established universe. Now I quickly want to brush over some of the top comments and thoughts on The Witcher 4, what a lot of people think and feel about for the future of this franchise. Your Gaming Pill says, I'd love to play Vesemir in his prime in Witcher 4. You could tell in The Witcher 3 that the man has a legendary story behind him, and I could not agree more. Out of all the characters in this franchise, I think Vesemir fits the best for his own story. Somebody without a username says, I think people need to realize that The Witcher 3 is rather well wrapped up. Sure, you got into the series with The Witcher 3, but have you played the first 2 games or read the books? And I actually have. You also have the ideas about what should happen next, but you're basically coming to the end of a house party and starting to suggest new things to do. It ain't gonna happen. To be honest, the only place they could really make a game on would be making video game expansion-esque episode based on the short stories or full stories on the books. I think that's one of the biggest problems people think about, but CD Projekt Red can honestly do whatever they want. And to be honest, I doubt the books will influence too much going forward. But you are right, the main series is wrapped up well, which is why when we do get a new game, it's best that it's a number of years before or after the trilogy, and follows new characters, location, and story, maybe only having small links to the original trilogy. But I will say the Witcher franchise is at its peak of popularity right now, and I think over the next number of years, this gaming franchise is going to become even more appreciated, and eventually the hype and anticipation is going to be through the roof for the next Witcher installment, and when that happens, it's going to be very similar to all the hype and excitement over Fallout 4. Lastly, Nacho says, I want another Witcher game so badly, but the truth is CDPR set the bar so high making The Witcher 3 that it's almost impossible to make something better. Not many games, if any at all, have books that offer such a huge backstory into each individual character like The Witcher. I do understand CDPR wanting to end the series on a high note, that makes sense. I can't accept the fact that Geralt's story is over, and that I will never see him in a new shiny game ever again. Geralt will always be missed. Well, Geralt of Rivia as the main protagonist is over, but I think there's a good chance we see him again in a future game. Spoilers for the ending of Blood Wine, well, not really spoilers, but this scene really just tells you, for now, CDPR wants to try new things.
We have witnessed, and in fact on several occasions incited, many great and weighty events. After all that toil, I believe we deserve a bit of a rest.
That we do.
Also, to the note of it's almost impossible to make something better, I honestly believe CD Projekt Red is only going to get better, and they will continue raising the bar into the next console generation. Never say impossible with CD Projekt Red. Anyway, thank you for watching. Make sure to smack that like button if you did enjoy this video or found any informative value, and make sure to let me know down in the comment section below some of your predictions of the future of the Witcher series. Also, consider subscribing for all the latest news on CD Projekt Red's next game, Cyberpunk 2077, and I'll see you later.